All right, so today I'm going to talk about the 5 pillars of successfully getting through an AI-driven digital transformation, and especially the things that maybe tend to go wrong. So if you're already underway in a transformation or you're considering it, this conversation could be really helpful in thinking about where are we going to go wrong, what can we think about first, and how do we fix it. So I think the first thing that we see is, like, honestly, maybe the biggest lever and catalyst you can have when undergoing digital transformation is communicating change. And the biggest problem here is that most organizations just dive in and start working on things maybe pretty high up, and they're not successful later on. And we'll talk more about that. The second is looking at your customer experience. Really, if it's not any different when you're done, it's possible you won't have made the difference that you hope to do. Maybe you focus on something internally, or you focused on some tools and some differentiating things for your how things work. But if your customers don't feel it, it's not really going to move the needle for you. The third one is looking at your operations and thinking of them as bionic operations. If you're old enough, listen to this. You remember the Bionic Man? He's bigger, faster, stronger because he's got technology aiding a person that's driving it. That seems to be where people are being most successful. So we'll date ourselves today. Some data came out that ChatGPT code is only about 51% accurate. That's not great. So we got to use a human to make that better. I think that'll be true across the board. The fourth one is data analytics. I should say data and analytics. Thinking about making your company into a data-driven organization as opposed to reacting to data, I think is one of the biggest things you can do in a transformation. It's a cliche, but every organization has tons and tons of data. Hardly anyone knows to do with it. And even if they had it, would they actually act on it and use it? That's a big, big failure place. And the last piece is you're going to have a lot of things going on, and you need to think about integrations. So we're transforming everything, but if we don't ever leave the silo and things don't talk to each other, you're going to be in big trouble in terms of how to make your systems talk to each other and create operational agility to do something interesting in the future. So let's go into those more in depth and see what we can learn from them. So on the communicating change piece, it's really a digital transformation is a change management project at its heart. And where we've seen things go horribly wrong is when an organization doesn't commit to the organization about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and honestly, the kind of what's in it for them piece of what'll be better about it for you. And I would say as a leader, for me, one of the things that can get a little annoying, and you think you're repeating yourself, but repeating a message over and over and over again. Every communication is driven around, hey, everyone, we're changing. Here's how we're changing. Here's why we're changing. If you don't do that, you get kind of complacent, and we've seen it start to backfire with, well, why isn't it here yet? And what is it going to do for me when it arrives? It really comes down to that, politics is local idea of, if a person's direct sphere of influence isn't being impacted for the better, you're going to be in trouble. I also think with a transformation, sort of in its essence, you might be transforming from something old that people were used to. A lot of the clients we've worked with have people that have been, in an organization, in a process for sometimes up to 20, 30 years sometimes. I even talked to a company recently where their system is 30 years old. They last updated it 25 years ago, and PS, that company went out of business 15 years ago. So we're all looking at that server over in the corner, hoping it doesn't turn off. And that's like a real world situation. But the flip side of it, on the communicating how this is going to change and why it's going to be better, they just might be used to, when I get in the system, it's space, tab, hit a 3, hit enter. And like, I'm really dialed into how that process works. The new one's going to be different. It should be better. It should be faster. And so, that promise of being able to do your job better, faster, frankly, being able to keep up with your competitors. If you think about technology as a little bit of a Cold War, if you do nothing, then at best, your customers are going to be able to produce more at a cheaper price with better service in the near term. And in the long term, you kind of become irrelevant. Your inefficiencies are baked into your costs. And so communicating that change to your organization is, I think it's the biggest lever you can use to be successful. Even thinking of it as a marketing campaign, think of it as got this message to distribute. People need to understand it. They need to react to it. They need to be comfortable. They need to be excited about it. That's a campaign that you would start first and get buy-in from. I mean, you'll people as part of your process, but get information out to the organization so that they're excited about it. So going in the second pillar, thinking about customer experience, when you think about the digital world today, customers have an expectation that they bring to you, that they bring to every other thing they do online. And so you can't bemoan the fact that you're not Amazon and, make an excuse for yourself, because customers expect to a certain extent to be able to go online, do what they need to do, get it done quickly. They have a task to do that seems like it should be able to be done online or through some kind of digital product. They're going to want to do it. And not everyone can have everything. You're not going to have same day delivery like Amazon. You're not going to have drones. You're not going to have all these other things. Maybe you do. But there's sort of a bare minimum that customers expect. And they spend all day on all kinds of other products, from including Amazon to, other kind of consumer stuff like, social media and Instagram and other things where you have a kind of expectation of performance and how things will work and what they'll do. And so, it's actually really worth it if you're doing a transformation to find out from your customers what's important. Because while you can't do everything, your choices about what you do make a big impact about, how you serve your customers and how you're sticky with them. In some cases, if you're an online retailer, one of our episodes this season is going to be with a large retail technology group, and realizing in retail that actually 85% of your business is still done in store. So that might mean, or it might not mean, up to you to make a choice about maybe less on e-commerce and more on operational systems, right? But whereas for a SaaS product, it all happens online. So you need to make sure that you're where you need to emphasize and why. Customers will notice, they'll shop. I've seen stats that say, customers will choose to do business with companies that offer them the tools they want them, when they want them, where they want them. And so if you can do that, you can compete. If you can't, then this might be the choice that they go somewhere different. For industries that are maybe a little bit, less technologically advanced right now, manufacturers or things like that, you might think you might not have to do that. But as the generation now, ages and comes into power, you're going to be looking at people who have a certain expectation. You might be so far behind the curve that you can't catch up. So taking a hard look at customer experience is going to be really important now and into the future. All right, so let's look at thinking of your operations as bionically assisted. There is a lot of talking on right now around AI. We're knee deep in it as well. And I think the lesson here is that for most of your business, I'm going to say it's going to be more advantageous to think of it as like the Bionic Man, where you're assisted. So you're not necessarily letting an AI or a software tool do all the work for you. Some of it might be really advantageous to do that way. Some of it might need to be assisted, and some might need to be something that isn't AI, but it's just software or people still. And so making those choices intelligently, and not trying to over-engineer something, really thinking about the impact, especially with investing in technology. It's possible you find a problem that, like, this is kind of annoying. Our accounting department they must spend 6 or 7 hours every week doing XYZ, and we should just automate that. And then you go, okay, let's automate it, and that costs you $100,000. Well, if your accounting team is only, if they're making $100,000 a year, think about how much you're spending just to replace, sort of an annoyance for only a few hours a week. That's one of those, even as a software developer, it's really easy to want to automate everything. But if you don't understand the impact to the business, it's going to be really complicated later when you look at, oh my God, why do we spend money on X instead of Y? And what was our return even about that? So think about using assistive technologies with AI, especially right now. I feel like on the marketing front, AI is really powerful for ideation, for doing some amount of content, even image generation, things like that. But a person still has to look at it, right? So if you've ever seen or received AI content, you know it. So use it where it's going to help you the most. You need 17 ideas for how to come up with a better way to reach out to our customers. Where the Bionic arm can really come into play here with a lot of leverage is looking at data. So taking a look at AI models and other systems to pull out what's important to know about your business in a way that would be impossible maybe for a person to come up with, and or could be faster if it's a regular recurring kind of thing. Those are things that could make a huge impact in a really short term, just based on your ability to operationalize those quickly. So let's take a look at data and analytics. If I think about where the biggest transformation that companies can make, so many older companies have kind of a gut feeling about things, or there's a way they've always done them. It sure is fun to go into a meeting with some data to back up your claim and then to be right about it. And so a company that's able to transform and operationalize their data in a way to look at, there's a sort of counterintuitive thing we've discovered where, all of our customers who do X happen to also do Y. Or, when we thought about investing in opening a new market, we looked at what it took to open the market last time. And even though we think that it took us 2 years, that actually we were, breaking even at 8 months. Having access to that data in some ways has always been there, but we may not have had a way to get at it sort of proactively. And I think touching briefly on the culture piece and communication piece, letting people know that that's what you expect, and getting out of the business of just sort of hoping or going on your gut is really important. And there's so many tools and opportunities to do that, that I think it's one of those that is worth investigating. And then I think the piece that ties all together, literally ties it together, and that's looking at making sure that in your transformation, you've made an effort to integrate. So thinking about how your systems talk to each other, even if it's just one system talking to one other system, the amount of leverage you have by combining data streams in a way that couldn't before, and or eliminating the classic swivel chair technology where someone's copying and pasting something. Talked to a client recently that everything's run off spreadsheets, and some actual emails and faxes being retyped. Opportunity for error is huge there. And customers feel it. You get an invoice. I mean, we've all received it. You get an invoice that's the wrong one. I received a parking ticket in the mail the other day. It wasn't even my car. It was my old license plate still registered to someone else. And that's one of those, like, that seems like something you should be able to have some control over. And how did that even happen? And it's aggravating. Regrettably, I can't stop doing business with the city, but that's what integrations can bring your systems together, obviously, but also bring your teams and people together. So if accounting and marketing data and operational data and supply chain data all come together, you have a better picture of the business, what's possible, what you could or should do, decisions you might make that could be different under a different data scenario wouldn't be possible if it weren't for integration. And so as you start to wrap up and think about like where these things might touch, thinking about ideating on things, I think the first place I would look and thinking about like what to transform, it's got to be operations first. So one of the easiest things to do is just look at your whole process from beginning to end, from sourcing to production to delivery to invoice to cash, and just documenting that all out. That's the first thing we do, just to kind of get a level set on what's happening. And what you'll see is there are parts of your process, parts of your business that are just less efficient than others. There are things where maybe part of it is running just about as perfectly as you could hope. And there's other areas where you're like, oh God, this thing, talked to someone recently where, invoicing for a big customer took a month. I should say quoting for a customer took a month, and looking at that, like, and that was an actual pushback that they got. Like, if we're going to renew with you, we can't wait long to do that kind of stuff. So you pick the places where you make a difference. Is it worth investing in different quoting data to be able to serve your customers faster? For some businesses it is, for some it might not. If you don't document it, you'll never know where to look. I think another one is looking at product development. One of the things that's going to come with AI is that people are going to be able to do not only things faster, but they're going to be able to do more. And so when I think about what companies might be able to tackle, there might be things that weren't worth automating or even looking at before. But with the power of AI, there might be like a longer tail thing that actually, now that we think about it, if we could apply some AI to this, there might be a way to finally do the thing that you've been waiting to do that wasn't practical before, but also developing a product around that. And so for some companies, developing digital products is new, but an idea that you can create your own customer portal to do something. You can create your own app to give people visibility into something, or be able to manage their data with you, manage their orders, manage how they interact with you. Those things maybe used to be more and more expensive. And with the advent of AI and with the continued development of frameworks and other kind of things to leverage, lots of companies that didn't even think that product development was in their wildest dreams now might look at it, because thinking about technology as a Cold War, your customers or your competitors probably are too. So looking at what other people are doing is actually sometimes a good way to innovate by looking at what's been successful somewhere else and take your twist on it. Doesn't have to be from the same industry. Could be you really enjoyed how honestly, I'm a huge fan of stuff that Domino's does with their technology. They take a lot of fun risks. See what someone that you liked did and innovate on it. In fact, I think I also saw recently Domino's is branding potholes. So they're filling potholes in cities and putting their logo on it. I mean, not a technology innovation, but maybe perhaps catered by data and where people would be able to find them. The low-hanging fruit right now is customer service. So lots of people are implementing chatbots. Virtually everyone hates them, but they're better than they used to be, right? So if you think about that as a trajectory, they're getting better, and it might be time to investigate for yourself. I think a really interesting application for chatbots is actually internal, where you can train AI on your internal systems and policies and phone numbers and all that kind of stuff, where you can have your team be chatting with chatbots whose data source is internal. Could be a little less of a risk, and also, again, to free up internal people for more stuff. I think on the sales and marketing side, there's so much opportunity with creating content, but also go back to the data side of things, using AI to identify things that are opportunities for the business. That gets more and more powerful every day. And again, making data-driven decisions are going to be really high value in the future. I'll touch on a couple more. Thinking about supply chain management. So, there is a lot of companies have IoT or thinking about developing digital twins. Here's an opportunity to capitalize on the value of understanding the status of your various machines and technology in your workflow. And if there are parts of that could be improved, we can work on that. And then looking at the supply chain as a whole, looking at your order data and how long orders are taking to be fulfilled and delivered, and even what's happening in markets with copper and plastic and all kinds of things, could inform how your future moves, whether in purchasing or pricing or other things could be affected. Maybe the last piece I'll touch on is just logistics. So many tools are available for tracking and GPS and where orders are and how they're being delivered and what the temperature is inside the thing. There's going to be so much data available to everyone. Taking advantage of that is going to make a huge difference. So again, thinking about the 5 big pillars, that if I look at where a company is succeeding on communicating change, on delivering a new customer experience, on reinforcing their operations with these new AI tools, and being a data-driven culture that knows how to integrate their systems, that's your opportunity. And not really thinking through where your biggest impact in any one of those is definitely a recipe for failure.